Hey guys, it's me, Vinny. I'm back with another video. This is a part two of sorts to my Derek Carr video, where I basically said thank you to Derek Carr for being a part of the Raiders and my predictions of where I think he'd be going for the 2023 season. Well, let's look at the other side of the coin. What will the Raiders be doing for 2023? Well, I mentioned in the other video that I think a trade with the Patriots to get Mac Jones could be a really interesting option for the Patriots. Some suggest that maybe they can get someone like a Geno Smith in free agency. Some say they can just see what their chances are with the draft. But I don't think that's going to happen with the draft because they're not in the right position to get a high caliber quarterback. But I think the Raiders will try to do what they tried to do back in 2020. They will see if they can nab Tom Brady from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during free agency. Now, you might be saying, what, really? He said he's going to retire until he's 45. No, he said he'll retire when he sucks. He doesn't commit one way or another. And obviously, he retired very briefly before this season, and he played this season. He's had one of the worst seasons of his career. His wife divorced him, and it's not looking the best. So I could see him wanting to move on from Tampa. I mean, he had a good 3 years there. Team won a Super Bowl. He won Super Bowl MVP. They won the division the year following. They almost went to the NFC Championship game again, and they might win their division again this year. But unless he decides to hang it up, I could see him playing for another team. That might not be for Tampa. He could play in Tennessee. He could play in Washington. Like the Commanders and the Titans, I think, are two interesting options. He could go back to the Patriots, though I doubt it. Some say that he could maybe be interested in the Jets. I also can't see that. But one that's been throwing around, I think, is getting some more momentum is the Raiders. This is because back in 2020, he was interested about going to the Raiders, but he was annoyed that John Gruden wanted to keep Derek Carr as opposed to him. So he was thinking about going to the Raiders back then. With Derek Carr now going to be out of the picture, how is that looking for him? Because now you have Josh McDaniels, your former OC for many years in New England, is now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. You're in a city that is getting more and more accustomed to football. They have a all-pro level wide receiver in Devontae Adams. You also have a good defensive end in Max Crosby. Though, even though the Raiders are an attractive option for Brady if he decides to play another year, there are some parts where I don't think he'd be as interested. Number one, the Raiders' defense is not good. Like, it is not good at all. It's one of the worst in the league, and they've also not been good at drafting. Like what the Buccaneers have compared to the Raiders is not their good defense, and they've been good at drafting the last several years. You know, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Vita Vea, Devin White. You know, a lot of kingpins. Whereas the Raiders, they've been known for missing on draft picks. And you know, you should have also Josh Jacobs as a free agent. Do you want to retain him and try to bring in Brady? Devontae Adams is not very happy with how they handled Derek Carr. Could he potentially be requesting a trade? So there's definitely some roadblocks in the way if Brady does want to end up playing for the Raiders. I don't know if it will happen. It could happen. But I also think for Brady, another reason why I wouldn't be interested in going to the Raiders is you're in a tougher conference if you go to the Raiders. Whereas the NFC, I mean, you have teams in your own division, like the Panthers, they're not good. Falcons are rebuilding. Saints aren't that good. Like, you could still compete for the division title. And in the NFC, like what? You have the Eagles, the Niners, and maybe the Cowboys, and maybe the Vikings. Like, it's definitely a weaker conference compared to the AFC, where you have nice, bright young quarterbacks. And look in the AFC West alone. You have the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, one of the best players in the league, period. You have the Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, another one of the best young players in the league. And even for the Broncos, obviously Russell Wilson's washed now, but they still have a great defense. Do you really want to be in the AFC West when you can stay in the NFC South, where you have a Falcons team with an awful defense, a Saints team that has not been great all around for football, and the Panthers who don't have an answer at quarterback? Like, I think I'd take my chances much more in the NFC South than I would ever in the AFC West. I understand the AFC West has been a very big disappointment this year, but you still have 2 teams that made the playoffs. On the NFC South, we'll be lucky to have one team that has a winning record. So I could see him as the Raiders quarterback, but I think for his own personal sake, if he just doesn't decide to retire, he should probably stay with the Buccaneers, as that gives him the best chance to compete for another title, his 8th title in his illustrious, legendary career. But that's just my thoughts. What do you guys think? Do you think Tom Brady will be the Raiders quarterback for next year? If not, let me know. I'll give you my thoughts. I want to hear yours in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think.